Welcome to Red Light, Green Light, the podcast where you'll hear from industry leaders in science, technology, and innovation about the power of strategic storytelling. With decades of experience, our guests will share their own insights and real-world stories to help you avoid red light barriers and ignite green light solutions, from the Zoom room to the boardroom. In each episode, we'll corkscrew downward into the guests' personal experiences of challenge and success, highlighting strategies that turn complex ideas into clear, compelling storylines for stakeholders. Here is where expert minds share stories that shape the future. What's more, you'll walk away with tips to try immediately to drive the vision of innovation with your team. Here is where expert minds share stories that shape the future. What's more, you'll walk away with tips to try immediately that drive the vision of innovation with your team. Hi, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Red Light, Green Light. I am your host, Cindy Skalicky, and as you know, on every show, we are bringing you amazing leaders who have spent decades in their zones of brilliance, and we're having them here to share their storylines with you. Stories about themselves, stories about their clients, stories about whatever comes up on the conversations we're about to have. I'm really pleased and very excited to bring to you a friend of mine, a colleague of mine I've known for quite some time now, Ellen Robinson. Ellen, welcome to the show. Tell me how you're doing today.
Thanks, Cindy. I'm doing well. You're finding me in the central coast of California. So
Fantastic.
I'm in Colorado for a little bit and have been enjoying all the food and wine.
Yes, well, what's not to love about the food and wine in California? Absolutely. I would like to I printed a little bit of your introduction, Ellen, because I watched one of your videos at LinkedIn. And if listeners and viewers haven't connected yet with Ellen, please go over and find her. You'll love her content. And she has a great video that kind of gives a snapshot background. So after graduating from Wharton, Ellen Robinson stepped into the business world with big impact. She has driven strategic growth for powerhouse brands like Pepsi, Frito-Lay, and major national sports franchises. She took a leap into the startup world for a bit to pursue a passion in entrepreneurship. And through that, she found her true calling, executive coaching. Ellen did the deep dive work to pivot and hasn't looked back. Now she works closely, as do we, with CEOs and leadership teams and helps them drive bottom line results while developing themselves. And that's why I wanted to have you join me here today, Ellen. Can you give us a couple of snapshots into that journey that I just read about? Maybe share a little bit of, how you moved from one of those areas into the next and what that was like.
Yes. Thanks, Cindy. A lot of it was reflecting on what my interests were for my career. Let's put it that way. So talk now about, I did with a client actually today. Yes, there's a company name, but it's really Ellen Robinson Incorporated that I'm in. I said the same to my client because there's family, of course, and kids. This was another woman who has 4 children, so juggling quite a lot of interests there. And so every move I've made, I had some thought or intention around whether I wanted to stay in a particular market, whether I wanted to get involved in the community, or whether I wanted to be somebody who traveled from place to place. So along with just passion. So when .com started happening a while back early in my career, I did take a pivot from corporate into a startup. And I say I learned the difference between a P&L and a term sheet. And I loved it. It just fascinated me about business, et cetera, et cetera. When it came to deciding to go into coaching, once again, I took a look. I had experienced significant burnout through the first year, and we might want to unpack that a little bit. So I was very intentional about not going back into another full-time position, which for me was always double full-time. It's just the way, that's my strength of achievement. And I wanted to go into something where I could be more flexible and hopefully control my urges to really overachieve. And that's what.
Yeah. Oh, and help other people achieve. And maybe you get a 2-for-1 there, right?
Do
That,
that success and be really happy for them.
yes, I love that. How long have you been on your own then? Tell us the time frame since you
Yeah,
started
almost
Ellen Roberts.
15 years now. And I went back to
Okay.
coaching school, and I have a fun
Okay.
little, story there. I again, very humbled by you telling people about my background, but I had always kind of been an A-plus player, and got a
Mm-hmm.
chance to go to a really great school, and then got into corporate America at a high level, et cetera, et cetera. So when I went to coaching school, in fact, it was the first time that I ever discovered that I was average.
I love this. Tell me more. How are you average?
Yeah, I couldn't
It's great.
tell me that. It's because I got very involved with the Enneagram. The Enneagram is one of the
Okay.
personality tools that I use in
Yes.
my work. And the Enneagram does have levels of development, how we are developed from a maturity standpoint,
Yeah.
from basically control of our ego. And I learned
Mm-hmm.
when I showed up there that I was square in that average place of not really being able to see past my ego. And
Yeah.
I find
Okay.
my clients are there as well. And I let
Yes.
them know that it gets the best of us.
Yes. So, what did you do with that information? And this is just great for anyone listening who's had either the Enneagram or who's felt like average based on an assessment or a performance review. Like when you got that information and it maybe, shocked you a bit, what'd you do with that? And how did you go forward?
Wow. Well, first of all, I felt a bit sheepish.
Mm-hmm.
It was definitely a big wake up call.
Yeah.
I was looking at descriptions of me that I had never really
Wow.
recognized.
Wow.
And I mean, they weren't harmful. I wasn't hurting
Yeah,
anyone.
no, but
I
it's
had
like,
hurt myself a bit with my burnout. So,
okay.
so I really had to take stock. And
Mm-hmm.
clearly, as opposed to being resistant or defensive, stay open
Mm-hmm. Yep.
and use it for what I could discover.
Yeah.
And it just really then, and the Enneagram is such a wonderful tool in this
Mm-hmm.
way,
Mm-hmm.
started an incredible journey of self discovery. And so I've
Well,
that journey, and it goes goes so far. And I've been on that for 15 years since I went to coaching school.
Well, I think that's amazing. And I think that what a gift that didn't appear to be a gift, because I can imagine that you've gone back to that moment with your clients a lot because you now can empathize with where they might be in their journey and, just share that story. I bet you share that pretty frequently with folks. Is that a fair statement?
And blind
Yeah.
spots
Yeah.
stink. But yeah,
Yeah.
the whole reason you work with a coach is to find your blind
Mhm.
spots. And if that's
Right.
not part of what you're in for, then
Yeah.
you're not going to get what you're looking for, because you're going to get
Right.
a lot of peeks around the dark corners for sure.
Yes, yes, 100%. Well, let's ask one more question just to get to know you a little better, Ellen, and then we'll jump into kind of the lights system and your work and how you see lights. But one question I always like to ask is about someone in your previous roles or past, and it can be anyone, just anyone who's had some positive influence on you, whether it was a teacher or a coach or a mentor at work or a family member who stands out as like, without that person, I don't think I would have known this, grown in this way. Is there someone popping up in your mind that you'd like to share with us?
Yes. There's a couple, but I'll go with one, and then you can tell me if you want to hear about it a second.
Okay.
Mentor of mine who I met, oh gosh, almost 30 years ago now, through an
Okay.
organization called Young Presidents Organization.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
When I was interested in moving from that whole corporate world with all of the scaffolding and structure, of course,
Mhm.
lots of demand for results. So I'm not
Mhm.
suggesting it's any easier one place or the other.
Right.
It's just
Right.
very different.
Hmm.
And I wanted to get into the startup world. And
Hmm.
I had an idea for a software as a service sort of um, product or offering. And I am not a technologist in any way, but I hope I find myself as a very applied technologist, because I do love
Okay.
technology.
I like that.
This idea came together. And this gentleman, his name is Steve James, who's now in his 80s,
Okay.
um, uh, uh, became the lead guy on my board. So here I am,
Okay.
pre-revenue,
Yeah.
basically just have an idea on paper. I
Yep.
eventually hired, 5 people. I raised over $7 million, and he was with
Wow.
me, not only just telling me what I'm supposed to be doing,
Right.
but also
Right.
giving me the encouragement and the confidence and the
Mm.
energy, because it's such hard work.
It
Um,
is hard. It's so
uh,
hard.
to kind of press on and move forward. So he was in the
Mm.
boardroom, in my little boardroom, which is, there's a table someplace with the
Yeah.
investors and the money people, myself, and him.
Emphasis on the word board, right? Like,
Exactly, exactly. Um, and we've maintained, just such a wonderful friendship. We come from very different backgrounds. Of course, he's a man, I'm a woman. He's much older than I, and it's
yep.
just been a lovely, tons of green light with
Oh, it's
what
so
he
great.
did to help me
Oh,
in my career.
I love that. I love that. That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. And let's see if we can put your second person as a bookend at the end. Let's get into the lights system next. So Ellen, as an executive coach who works with a lot of senior leaders and C-suite leaders in some of the leadership realms, I know communication comes into play for you
Absolutely.
and the work you do with your clients a ton. So for our first time listeners, all you need to know about the lights system is that here at On Point, we've created and trademarked a model. It's called the How To Model, and it's a book. It's launching in July 2025. But basically what I have, posited is that anytime you get up and stand in front of an audience of stakeholders, whether that's one or many, they observe you and your idea from like a red light of risk, because they either are just uninformed or might not know everything yet. And it's your job as the speaker, as the presenter, as the person whose idea it is, to get that person from the red light of risk to the green light and go, right? So that they can green light your idea. And so we've built a model for how to do that step by step. And we bring people on the show to say, like, hey, what are the green and red lights in your land and in your orbit of clients and where you live? So tell us a little bit, Ellen, when you're working with clients and they're up against maybe a tough conversation, or, what are some of the red lights that they need help unsticking, whether that's a behavior, a message that they're not getting right? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, I would say it's maybe a behavior or an approach. I really use it happens quite a bit. It will be
Mhm.
somebody who needs to make a presentation to their partners, and it could be not the idea as controversial, but the nature of the partnership may not be
Mm,
solid
okay.
to be in the kind of conversation that this person wants to be in. And so the
Okay.
business of the conversation is, how do I almost reestablish or build the relationship around the partnership so that we can
Okay.
align on
Mm,
um, how we see what we're doing
yeah.
together. And
So like backing it up a little bit to like the huddle before the conversation, that kind of, is that what you're
that's
saying?
absolutely correct. And there's a couple of communication frameworks that I use when I think about this. One,
Okay.
kind of alluding to, is that, and a lot of this is the work of Fernando Flores, who's an
Okay.
amazing, you know, uh, resource for coaches in terms of
Okay.
learning and
Yes.
understanding some of the additional frameworks to what you've just suggested for
Mm-hmm.
communication. In any event, he suggests that there are kind of like three types of conversations, and they are embedded in each other. The conversation for relationship is really first and foremost. And
Okay.
inside of that, you can have conversations for possibilities. And that's a frame. Are
Mm-hmm.
we in a conversation for possibility right now? Or, and the
Mm-hmm.
last would be the conversation for action. And
Okay.
so for somebody to understand, are you asking for a go here? Is it a green light on
Yeah.
terms of we want to put action into place? Or are we actually just
Mhm.
brainstorming, or are you looking for my input or my insight
Yeah.
because we're in a conversation for possibilities or opportunities, another word for possibilities. And then those two things are
Yeah.
very hard to do when you don't have relationship. So the other idea is,
Yes.
how much time are you spending in conversations about, for relationship, building trust,
Right.
revealing things about yourself, asking about the other person relationally before you
Yeah.
get in there. And very achieving, task oriented people like myself
Yes.
to jump right
Yes.
conversation for action. And you're going to get a
Yes.
lot of red light if
Oh,
that's
yes.
what you're doing without the other two sorts of conversation
Yes.
as well.
That's actually brilliant. I've never heard that before, and it makes all the sense in the world. So, just to recap, it's relationship is number one, number two is possibility, and number three is action. And I was just sharing this morning in a written piece about a leader who once asked me, he's at one of the largest banks in the world, and he was lamenting that the relationship with his higher up wasn't moving faster, or the
Mhm.
trust building wasn't happening as early as he was hoping because he had a lot to do. And this is basically, I mean, I fumbled through what you just said, but I was like, so tell me, how think of the people you trust the most in your life. Did you trust them in a week or in 2 weeks, right? And he was like, no. I was like, exactly. Like, trust takes time, and you don't usually do it at the copier. Go take him out for a beer, or,
Yeah.
ask about his family and learn what he likes to do, which mountains he skis, or what books she reads, or whatever it is. And that's a point really well taken. And what a cool way to walk a person through which one is needed to build and what the conversation is for. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
Thanks. It
fantastic.
definitely has opened up, light bulbs. Light bulbs go off
Yeah.
in that sort of way.
Well, and I think you're hitting on something else too, which is around why are you having the conversation? What's the purpose of it? If you want to brainstorm, back it up a notch, build the relationship prior to getting into the brainstorming, right? And then you can have a much more fruitful end
And
to
there's
the
a little bit
goal.
of
So,
nuance. I know I used the word brainstorm.
yeah.
Maybe I'll take that back. It really is for possibility, meaning, are you here to sell
Okay.
me on something, or are we ready
Okay.
to take action, or are you open to
Right.
for the
Okay.
particular sort of problem that you're solving? Not necessarily brainstorm, but bring
Sure.
me in as the listener as to what
Yeah.
possibilities might there be.
Yeah. Exploration
Yes.
of possibilities. Right.
Right.
Yeah. So, for our listeners and viewers, maybe you can think of a conversation coming up in the next 7 days or so, and which one of those you should be pulling the levers on. And I'm willing to bet that no matter what it is, you should probably drip some relationship building stuff somewhere before
Amen.
that call. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that. That's a huge nugget already, Ellen. What about specifics around green lights? Is there something that you have seen in your clients when they leave your coaching, for example, that they've really been able to commit as a habit that does a better job of getting them to green light?
Another
Yeah.
one, and there's two, but I'll go with this one again, and then you let me
Yeah.
know if there's time
Sure.
for another.
Yeah.
Is whether you're whether you have this mindset and attitude of control,
Mm.
and I call it unilateral control. Like, I'm going to get
Okay.
this person to what I
Mm-hmm.
want. That's kind of
Okay.
I don't promote that mindset. I
Right.
promote being very strong in your intention, being very thoughtful about what your point of view is, but to actually go in with the mindset of what I call mutual learning, which
Mutual
means
learning.
you go ahead and talk about what the possibilities you've considered or the action that you've concluded you want to take, but you leave room to ask really important questions like, do you see it the same way?
Mm.
What
Oh
am,
my,
what am I missing from what you've heard me talk about?
so good. So good.
So those are two as examples, but you can see they're the different kinds of questions. They're not yes, no. They let the listener feel like genuinely you're open to the fact
Oh,
that
I
you've
love that.
missed it.
Yes. Yes. There's another forward. Your two examples made me think of one I like a lot, which is, can you say a little more about that? Right. And just like it gets to the next level of whatever it might be that you and who doesn't love to hear that as a recipient, like, oh, you want me to keep talking? Like, okay, right. So that's
Is that I like, and it bridges over is uh, what concerns have I addressed, and what concerns haven't I addressed?
right.
What
Like,
would you be worried about out of this? And what I
yeah,
mean by that is, often in action or coming out of possibilities, we take a position. Like, of course, this is the situation, so we should do this. And we are
yeah,
trying to get to green light on the
sure.
right, on something everybody can be aligned with, not
Yes.
necessarily just controlling somebody to the point where they'll say, okay, I'll go
Right.
along. Meanwhile, they're not really aligned. So
Well,
when you, yeah,
yeah. I was just
So
gonna say, when you have, sorry, I'll bump back to you in 1 second. The when you have when we think about like Aristotle's triangle, right, of persuasion, we have head, we have heart, and we have credibility, right? When people feel like the end goal has been collaborative, it feels great for everybody. And those questions that you are putting on the table for our, listeners and viewers help you do that instead of feeling like my way or the highway.
exactly.
So,
Or like you're just
yeah.
pushing or promoting something. You could say it in a very
Yeah,
positive way, but the
right.
listener knows there's no room in there
Well, it's
for
very off-putting. Yeah. It's not very attractive. So, okay, tell us the second one, or did you slide it in already? What was
putting
the
it a
next
little
one?
bit, which is
Okay.
being really aware of what your interest in the solution is, not
Mm-hmm.
just your position. And the same
Mm-hmm.
thing for somebody else. Oftentimes we start debating my position against your position, and then we're stuck.
Yeah.
That's all red light.
Yes.
But
Yes.
it's just, wait a minute, this is my idea to solve this kind of set of concerns that I have.
Mm-hmm.
Then if you
Mm-hmm.
ask the listener, so where has this solution not met your concerns? And then you're like,
Right.
let's say, and then you're like, oh, and that gets into the collaborative piece. Now we're at
Yes.
the level of let's make sure we take care of each other's needs or as many as possible, not
Mm-hmm.
just debate one
Yeah.
position against the
Right.
other position.
Right. Yes, exactly. I love that. Ellen, what do you say when people come your way and they need help, like at the earliest part of being curious about executive coaching? What are some of the things that they want to get better at? Like, can you put a finger on a few skills or outcomes they're looking for?
Yeah, a lot of it, people come to me overwhelmed. And it
Okay.
can be for a number of reasons. It could be because they
Yeah.
don't feel effective in their communication. That becomes
Yep.
overwhelming because they feel ineffectual. Oftentimes, it's just staying organized, but not like time management per se.
Right.
Just really being able to be strategically thoughtful
Hmm.
about priorities, how much time I should be spending on different
Hmm.
priorities.
Hmm.
And often, these I find those have already become either dragged into or never figured out about how to get out of very day to day,
Yes.
often reactive
Yes.
of situations. And so they're not
Yes.
taking a step back to see where was the breakdown? Why
Hmm.
did this come back to me, or why is it with me in the first place? They're not
Yep.
really thinking through. They're just kind of taking it as it comes. And
Hmm.
uh, so that's
They just need a push.
the
Yeah.
overwhelm is big. It could be for
Yeah.
any number of those reasons. And we have an awesome time really
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
unpacking, recognizing how much of their personality as well as their own
Yes.
experience is,
Yes.
is a part of what's going on.
Mhm.
How much of it is
Yeah.
just the difficulty of the situation that they're in, and they have to rise and lean into something bigger than what they've been
Mhm.
doing, and on and on and on.
Yep, and like control your controllables. You can't control everything, but you can control your emotions, your outlook, your mindset. Those are the muscles I find are often the hardest for leaders who are at such a high clip of action and activity all day long. They can't often pause to say, like, wait, I remember you taught me how to pull my emotional thermometer down a few notches so that my mind actually can be more open to receive new information.
Yes,
Because, they're just bumping from one meeting to another, like that could be about any room in the house, right? Proverbially speaking.
right.
So
And I
it's
have to chuckle,
important.
say, control my emotions. How about the first off is just recognizing you have them,
Yes, right. Well,
and
I want to say, yeah, the first thing you said to me at the top of the podcast was when I asked you, like, what was it like when you got that review that you were average? And the first thing you said was how you felt, right? And it's like, there it is. We all start out with how we're feeling, and that's legit. Yeah.
yeah,
What were you going to say something else about the feelings?
all good.
Yeah. Well, one question that I like to ask, Ellen, is as you look ahead in the next like 6 to 12 months, given what's going on in the economy, in the world, do you see any trends with leaders needing new skills or needing to go back to old skills? Or is there anything just kind of wafting through the air, if you will, that's caught your attention?
Yeah, I mean, and clearly there's more uncertainty and there's more complexity. So I think
Mm-hmm.
what's being revealed is what we've taken for granted, just in terms of on the systems side of things,
Okay.
not technical systems, just the fact that we
Right.
are a system.
Yes.
supply chain, differences and government
Mhm.
geopolitics. And it's just, we're really realizing there's
Yeah.
a lot there
Yeah.
that we were relying on without inspecting. And we were
Yeah.
doing pretty well on top of it. We could build a supply chain. We would know what our
Yeah.
prices would be,
Yeah.
etc. Now
Yep.
it's becoming that much more complicated or complex because
Mhm.
of the significance of the breakdowns in those.
Mhm. Yep.
That
It's
would be
been yeah, go
one
ahead.
thing. And then I think, so intellectually and just energy and
Mhm.
strategy and
Mhm.
tactics and pricing and all of that is really fierce. And so
Yeah.
the other would be, yeah, how do you, like you were just saying, create space
Yeah.
to be
Right.
able to apply this heavy, heavy lift?
Mhm.
So if
Right.
you hadn't been learning how to take pauses before, you sure as heck,
Right.
even though it's a flood coming in, you cannot receive more than is possible. So you're going
Right.
to have to pause and learn how to, whether it's meditate, go into transitions from conversation to conversation in a way where you ground yourself. You're just going to
Mhm.
have to do some things that
Yeah.
can settle you so that you can have as much availability of yourself, of your best self, to solve the next thing or to have the next really hard
Yeah.
problem. Yeah.
That's actually a great term, like availability of yourself. Like, how available are you as yourself to ideas, people, and situations? If you're crunched all the time, you can't be as available. And you really want to be available to yourself first and foremost. And then put your own I hate the
Yeah. Put
cliche
your own
of it, but like it's true. You do need to take care of yourself. And I still remember years ago thinking this whole like breathing exercises thing was such a bunch of bunk, I thought. And then I was like, okay, I believe it now because it's actually proven to restart my system a few times, calm me down, and all right, I'll buy into it because it does work and it's physiologically sound information, right? I mean, it's true.
Yeah, but
It's
it's
true.
tough out there right now. It really, really
It
is.
is.
So I
Yeah.
feel
Well,
for
yeah.
people a lot of compassion for where rugs have just been pulled out from underneath you. So
Yeah.
there are
Totally.
situations where you'll be able to get through it, and there are some situations where things have changed fundamentally. And
Yeah.
there's Main Street's really having a tough time, and I have a lot of
Yeah.
their business
Yeah.
clients that are really struggling.
Yeah. 100%. Well, if you had one specific action item you would gift to the people listening and watching today about one thing they could do to improve their situation, wherever it might be that they are today, from your years of experience, what would you suggest?
Gosh, the one thing question, huh?
Yeah. I'm
uh,
putting you on the spot.
I think I would go and it's just coming to me right now, and just really solidify your relationships. We all need
Okay.
support in this. So, in what's going on now. And so open your heart to maybe people who you normally would just take for granted, and
Mm-hmm.
um, uh, recognize we're all in this together, and
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to have an opinion or doesn't have to get into a discussion of what's going on. Just
Mm-hmm.
connect with people on how we're all feeling
Yeah.
about change and about disruption and about whatever's
Yeah.
going on in your business and then in your life.
Yeah, that is a perfect piece of wisdom. There's a huge truck trailer, like an 18-wheeler truck trailer, not far from my house that says in giant black capital letters, it's all about relationships.
Yes.
That's what it says. And it's true. It's so true. Well,
Well,
Ellen, wrap us up with that second person that you wanted to kind of tip your hat to as we wind down our conversation. Who would that person be?
so she was my teacher. You can call her coach, now dear friend. But it was my teacher at coaching school. So this is the other
Okay.
end. So I had already worked with my mentor, Steve, and I had been in that world. And I had made this very big pivot into
Hmm.
coaching and personal development, that side, of
Hmm.
coaching. And her name is
Hmm.
Sarita Chawla. And she's
Okay.
a lovely, lovely Asian Indian woman
Yeah.
who is
Awesome.
very, very spiritual, soulful,
Mm.
developed. And she just showed, while my Steve taught me about term sheets,
Mhm.
Sarita showed me about my heart and my spirit and my soul,
Mm.
and
Oh,
how
beautiful.
to integrate that into, a whole beautiful life. And so I'm
Oh,
forever grateful to her as my teacher.
I love that. We had head and we had heart at the end of the bookends. That's perfect. I'm
We're
so
all
glad I
there, whether we know it or not.
That's right. Exactly. Exactly. Well, Ellen, you have a really common name. So what's the best way for people to find you on LinkedIn? Could they search for an extra term, the Ellen Robinson Group? What's the best way to find
Okay, so
you?
my business name is Robinson Coaching Group. And
Okay.
you could say Ellen, and I use an S, Ellen S. Robinson Denver, would
Okay.
do, because there are
Great.
other Ellen Robinsons for sure. Yeah.
Yes. 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 Perfect. Well, thank you, Ellen, so much for coming on the show and sharing just a little bit of your years and years of wisdom and some of the great tips that you brought today. I know I'm going to start to apply for sure. It was great to catch up with you and hear what's new in your business and how you're accelerating C-suite leaders and executives during times that are just really tough. And I'm glad to know you're out there in the world supporting people. And I know people will reach out after listening to this. Go tell Ellen you heard about her from this podcast. Any final thoughts, Ellen, as you head out?
No, I just appreciate what you're doing. And I think it's great that you're taking on this sort of podcast effort. It's not
Yeah,
easy.
yeah.
I've done it
No,
myself.
oh,
And
fun.
it's been really fun. It's great to see
Yeah.
you.
So good. So good. Everybody, thank you for joining us for another awesome episode of Red Light, Green Light. As usual, I send you all away with a little bit of homework, which is to try to get out there this week between this episode and the next one and see who's in your orbit that you can try to get from that red light of risk to the green light of go. And we will be back again next week with another incredible guest. Until then, get out there and nail it. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.